Alright, let's go. Hello and welcome to a tutorial for Earthborne Rangers, being played on DragnCards, which was created by C-Stan. The Earthborne Rangers plugin was created by Pence. And yes, true to form, if you hear running water in the background, that is because I record these videos in my basement, next to a pipe, and the dishwasher is currently running, so there's a look into my personal life. Alright, let's get to this tutorial. So nothing beats the actual physical cards. I have the physical game of Earthborne Rangers. It is fantastic, but having this program allows you to play Earthborne Rangers with folks that are hundreds or even thousands of miles away, or if you just want to give the game a try before you go out and purchase it. But I really want to reiterate, the actual physical card game itself is definitely my favorite way to play, but man, this is a close second. Well done, Pence. This is amazing. So we're going to go to www.beta.dragncards.com. That is because this plugin version is still in the beta phase. And you will click on the Earthborne Rangers. As you can see, there is a tutorial, and then you can create a room. So what I'm going to do here is go through some of the general playing steps. I am not going to explain how to play Earthborne Rangers. I'm going to explain how you play it on DragnCards, the hotkeys, the mechanics of the program itself. I'm assuming you already understand how to play the game, and if not, there are wonderful tutorials by Earthborne Games. Alright, here we go. We're going to create a room. If you wanted to play Earthborne Rangers with multiple people, when you create your room, you would want to go to public. If it's a two-player game, you can make it two-player by saying everyone. And that will give them an option to sit down at your table. As you know, when you play Earthborne Rangers, you can have people coming and going throughout the campaign, so that's why it's set up this way. So if you have a third player who wants to just come in for one game, you could obviously add that third player for them to come in and sit. Each player will have their own setup down here, and then the within reach cards will be in front of the particular ranger. The cards along the way will always start here on the left and work their way across. And then you can make a private room. So we're going to go private for this tutorial. Okay, and as you can see, it brings you to the interface, and already there are cards on the table. You have the common tests card, you have the map, and then you have the challenge deck already loaded. And then one of the first hotkeys you'll need to learn is hitting F, and when you click F, it flips whatever card you're hovering over, so this will flip it to the round structure. So let's talk about those hotkeys. There's a lot of them, and the faster you memorize them, the faster you're going to be able to play on this interface, but it's a lot to remember, and so what you're going to do is hit the Tab key. This will bring up all of the hotkeys in the game. As you can see, there is a lot of them. You can read through these. They're very self-explanatory and extremely helpful. All right, one of the first things you'd probably want to know is how do you load a deck? So what you want to do, in my opinion, the easiest way is to go to RangersDB. RangersDB is where you can build decks, and I have some decks here that have been built by the gentleman who made the plugin. So if we go to this deck here, here it is, and then you're going to copy the URL, and then you go back to DragnCards, and if you remember, on the tab key there is a way to easily load a deck from a URL. It is Control U. So if we hit Control U, it brings up this window. Control V to paste it in, enter. And there we go. It has loaded my deck. As you can see, everything is loaded, including the aspect card with the tokens on it. And on the tab key, it showed how you could add and remove tokens. So by hitting the number 6, I am adding a green token because my arrow is on the top half of the card. If I move my mouse arrow down to the bottom half of the card and hit 6, it starts taking them away, and that is how you can add and remove every token in the game by simply moving the mouse arrow to the upper half or the bottom half of the card. Super convenient and very cool. Clicking on a card brings up another menu that you can read through, as in deleting a card, or you can flip it over, you can exhaust it, ready it. There's also hotkeys to do this kind of stuff. All decks have a burger icon, which lets you do all kinds of stuff like shuffling it, looking at the top 5, discarding until a certain type of card comes up, choosing a random. You can play around with this menu. It's very self-explanatory. You can also hit the eye icon, which will show you your entire deck. And then there's searching and other features here that you can mess around with. Very self-explanatory, very easy, and you can close and keep order or close and shuffle. To exhaust a card, that's simply hitting A. Going back to the tab menu, you can see that you can draw a card by hitting D. There we go, it drew me a card. And if you ever do something and then you want to go back in time, you can do Control Z to undo one action. So let's say I don't want to draw that card. Control Z puts it right back on top of my deck. Later in this tutorial, I will be explaining how you make modifications to your deck. There's actually 2 ways we can do that, but I'm not going to talk about that yet. Let's continue to talk about how you would set up your first game if you wanted to actually start playing a campaign. So let's start a campaign at Lone Tree Station, and we're going to use the Woods as our path deck. If you go Menu, Load Pre-Built Deck, you can get to this menu that we need to get to. There's also a hotkey for that, which is Control L. I love using hotkeys, so I'm going to try to use them as much as possible. It just makes everything so much easier. It springs up this menu. There's 2 things. You got a challenge deck, which only contains the challenge deck that's already loaded, but I do think this is good planning because I would have to believe that some of the design space in this game is going to revolve around the challenge deck. So it was very smart for this plugin to contain this menu, I think, because I believe eventually, I don't have any insider information, but I believe eventually we're going to get different types of challenge decks, and it just seems like an obvious design space for this game. So right now you don't need to do anything with the challenge deck. It's already loaded. The Lure of the Valley is where all your other decks are. Here you can see we have the locations, the general set, the valley set, the different path sets, the weather. He also included all 4 of the pre-made ranger decks. Let's click on that. There we go. So these are the ones that are in the rule book. So if you don't want to build your own deck on Rangers DB, you can load up one of these. And then the map and reference cards, which are already loaded. So the location menu contains all the locations, obviously. The general set is cards that come into play that you usually have to go and find on purpose. The valley set is the set that has a lot of the people you meet while you're exploring the valley, plus some nasty enemies. And when you travel to a non-pivotal location, this is the set where you're supposed to grab 3 random cards. The path set, of course, would be like the woods, the mountains, and then the weather would be your weather cards. So let's go to the weather right now because we do need to start on a perfect day. Simply hit the plus button. There we go. It's loaded. And by clicking down here on the main background area, it gets rid of that menu, and you can see the perfect day loaded in the weather spot, and it already comes in with 3 clouds. Very nice. We're going to hit Control L again and go back to this Lure of the Valley location. All right, we said we are starting at Lone Tree Station, so I'm going to hit the plus. I'm going to click out of this just so you can see what it did. It added the location. It also added the 5 pivotal cards to your path deck. Now we want to add the woods. So once again, Control L. You could have just stayed here, but I wanted to show you that. And we're going to go to the path set, and we're going to click woods. And you can see right here the 5 changed to a 17, so we know they loaded. It also pre-shuffled them. You can see that by clicking here. You can see that they are shuffled. Lone Tree Station says search the path deck for the next predator and discard it. So by clicking the eye, you can just easily hover over until you get to a predator. There he is, and drag it to the discard. Or I could have hit X, and that also would have put it in the discard pile. You can close and shuffle. And again, F flips the card. Hitting E will draw you a path card. What's great is that it knows where to put them, so if they're supposed to be within reach, they show up within reach, and then if they're supposed to be along the way, it will pop up over into along the way. Very good features there. I'm going to hit the left arrow to go back in time, so we only have 1 path card drawn. And that is the basic setup. In this game, you can take a selective mulligan. Any cards that you don't want in your opening hand would go to the bottom of your deck. Simply hovering over a card and hitting B will get rid of that card. So let's say I didn't want either of these 2 cards, and then I wanted to draw 2 to replace it. Bada bing, bada boom, there they are. I just hit D and drew them. To put cards into play, you just drag to, let's pretend that This is actually a card that I want to have in play, even though it's a moment, and then I wanted to attach this to it. You simply just drag the card and you go behind it, and it is now attached. To detach a card, C, and it detaches it for you. Again, the hotkeys are super important. The faster you memorize them, the faster you'll be able to start playing this game. 5 is how you get your ranger token, so you should probably just right off the bat hit 5 on your ranger to get your ranger token. And then again, bottom of the card removes it, top of the card adds it. As you know, sometimes when you're playing this game, you need to add the persistence keyword to something because it needs to stay in play. That's by hitting P. That now has a little lock icon. That means that that card will stay with you when you travel to another location. Q is the letter that you use to interact with the challenge deck. So if I'm doing a test, I hit Q to draw a challenge card. And then as you know, you can keep drawing challenge cards until you get the one of the shuffle icon. And then if you ever draw the shuffle icon after you resolve it, Shift Q will shuffle those cards right back in. At the end of the round, after you have spent all of your energy, so let's pretend we spent that. So I'm hitting 6 and then 7 and then 8 and then 9. And I'm going to hit A to exhaust my ranger. This moment, I'm going to drag that to my discard pile. Let's say I took some fatigue, so I'm going to drag this card from the top of my deck over to the fatigue stack. All right, so it's the end of this round. I'm going to hit Shift N, and all kinds of stuff happened. As you can see, I drew a card, I readied everything, I regained all of my tokens, and the cloud went away on a perfect day. So there is some really nice automation already built into this. E will draw me the encounter card to start the next day. And for this example, let's say we're going to add a helping hand to Spirit Speaker now. For this, you would need to spawn a card. We go to Menu, Spawn Card from the card. As you can see, it's a group of missions, but you can also switch which group of cards you're looking for. A lot of times it's going to be a mission card. So we're going to say helping hand. There it is. Let's grab it. It spawned. I'm going to drag it behind her. And then because I want to make her persistent now, I'll put P. And she will be persistent and follow us. So let's say we want to travel somewhere else. Looking at the map, we're at Lone Tree Station. Let's go to a non-pivotal location. Let's go to Atrax Mountain. So we're going to travel to do that. It's very easy. If it's a nearby location, it's Shift T. And there we go. Here are all the options for where we could possibly travel to. We're going to say 1. It's going to automatically take us to Atrax Mountain. It automatically builds the path deck. And this is a really nice feature because not only did it grab the correct path, which was mountain, it also grabbed 3 random cards from the Valley set, including this little rascal. So that is a very easy way to travel around this map, especially if you're just needing to go to a nearby location. But as you know, there can be times when you need to travel multiple locations away. Let's say you hired a pilot. So now we're at Atrax Mountain, and let's say we want to travel down to Ancestors Grove. So that means we would need the Old Growth path deck. And we're going to go to Ancestors Grove. Hitting Shift T will not get us there. So what we need to do is we need to unload any cards that are not persistent. So we're going to go to Menu, Unload Shared Cards. This will get rid of all cards that do not have the persistent keyword that are part of the path deck, basically. As you can see, the deck went away, so did the location, and now we need to manually load Ancestors Grove. We're going to do Control L, lure the valley. Location, Ancestors Grove. 3 cards showed up, so that's exactly what we want. We're going to go back. Path set, Old Growth. And there we are. We traveled to a location that was not nearby, and everything loaded correctly. Let's get into something that's a little more advanced, and that has to do with modifications to your deck and modifications to the Valley set deck. I found that this was, to me, the most complicated part of using DragnCards. So let's talk about the Valley set first. As you know, when you're playing this game, you can get into a situation where a card from the Valley set is no longer in it. Let's say, for example, Quiet is no longer in the Valley set. So when you travel to one of these non-pivotal locations, you don't want Quiet to be in here. And by default, Quiet is a card in the Valley set. So how do you play this game with cards removed from the Valley set? It's actually quite easy. What you want to do is go to the builder. So once you've removed a card from the Valley set, you're going to basically need to create your own Valley set. So I'm going to go to the builder, and I'm going to hit plus. I'm going to click on this My Valley set, and over here I'm going to type in Valley because that's the set I'm in, and I'm going to add a single copy of everything that's supposed to be in it. And as I said, we are not including Quiet, so I'm going to add the other 13 cards. There we go, 13 cards, and we can name it. So I'm just going to call it T for Tutorial Valley, and then we're going to hit save. Okay, I'm going to click out of this, and now let's say from Ancestors Grove we want to travel to Kobo's Market, and I do not want Quiet to be shuffled into the deck as one of the 3 random cards. So the way I would do this is first unload the shared cards, menu, unload. There we go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the builder, and I'm going to click on the Valley set that I have created. As you can see, once again, this shows up, no Quiet in there, and then I am going to type in where I wanted to go, which was Kobo's Market. I don't have to save this. All I have to do now is hit the play button. By hitting the play button, it actually loaded Kobo's Market, and it added 3 of these cards at random. Then I'm just going to click out of this. So I don't need to click the save button after I've done this. There we go, Kobo's Market, 3 cards, obviously none of them Quiet. Wow, that is a terrible choice of the 3 cards. But anyway, the next time you need to do this and travel to a non-pivotal location, you just add that location because it didn't save. I can show that real quick. Because I didn't click save, as you can see, Kobo's Market's not there. So you just always type in your new location you're going to, hit the little play button, and it will add your 3 random cards. And then, of course, if we hit Control L to finish building this encounter deck, I believe it was Mountain. There we go. It added the rest of the cards to the encounter deck. And of course, as you continue playing the campaign and you need to remove other cards, you simply just hit the delete button, and now Umbra is no longer in this. In this instance, you would want to hit save because you have made a permanent change to this Valley set. Now, what about your own deck? Well, at this time, there is no easy way to upload your deck. There is this upload button, and it would require a text file, but there is no way to take a deck from Rangers DB and convert it into the proper format. I'm assuming that will eventually come, but right now, you need to do it manually if you want to build the deck within here. So you would hit the plus button, and then you could go to My Deck, My Role, My Aspect, and then find the cards you need by doing a search, by doing a type. You could have this up on your phone or another monitor, and you just build the deck as you go. It would be convenient to have your deck, so here's one that I started building. It would be convenient to have your deck in here because you can make the quick changes and keep track of your cards that are coming and going out of your deck, including the rewards as you play the game. But the other way you could do it is to just simply keep track of your deck on Rangers DB. So let's say I wanted to start a new campaign with a deck. I'm going to call it the T campaign for tutorial. As you saw, there was an option there to make it a campaign using multiple players. You would have to have that person as a friend, then you can add them as a friend. So we're going to start this campaign. I'm going to choose a deck. Here is a deck that's not currently in a campaign, so I can select it. On Rangers DB, as I'm sure you know, you can keep track of your cards. So let's say I have earned the Quiet card. So I'm going to add that. Let's go to my deck, and let's say I want to add Quiet to this deck. You got to make sure you've hit Camp. There's Quiet as an available card to me now, and I can choose to add, let's say, a single copy. Too many cards, no problem. I will reduce this Insightful down to 1, save changes. If we wanted to end this day and then load up my new version of the deck, you would go to Menu, and then it says Rangers camped after traveling or completed their mission for the day. As you can see, it completely cleared the table. And now, once again, we can load up all of our stuff. So I'm going to Control C this URL, Control U, Control V. It's going to load up this version of the deck, and there's quiet right there to show that that worked. And then you could reload all of your location, path deck, all that good stuff. If you had missions, you would go to menu, spawn card. And let's say you were on the reclaim, one of those type of missions. So there we go, that mission would come in. So as always, when you're playing this game, you would have your campaign going, which you can keep track of in Rangers DB, and you would know which missions you would be on and stuff. You could be keeping track of that. I don't know if you've used this much. I can show you my campaign where I made it through the entire thing. I basically quote unquote beat the game in 20 days, and here's all the missions I had done and completed as I went, the reward cards that I had gained. And then, of course, if I wanted to, I could have been making changes to this. I did this campaign, I should say, I did this campaign with real cards. So I did not keep track of the changes I was making to my deck as I went, because I was using real cards. So I just was making changes to the deck with the physical cards on the table. Remember, you need to hit the camp button to allow you to start making these modifications to your deck. At this time, I can't think of anything else that you would need to know as you're playing your campaigns. The modification of the decks, to me, is the most unintuitive part of the tutorial, but it's still very easy to do. And I find the actual gameplay to be very, very easy, especially once you start getting used to the hotkeys. If you followed this tutorial and there was a question you were hoping I would answer that I did not, please put it in the comments and I will make a follow-up video answering those questions. I will also reply to the comment. I am friends with Pence, the developer of this plugin. I'm also friends with C-Stand, of course. So between the three of us, we will get the answers to all the questions that you may have. And I really do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I am not an expert at this thing. I've actually only played using DragnCards 3 or 4 times, but I have found just in that short amount of time, the interface became very obvious and very easy to use. And I hope you enjoy it. And if you can, give a shout out on the Discord or even on the Patreon for the wonderful folks who have created this resource for us to use. All right, everybody, happy questing. Bye-bye.